Sometimes there are things that get you to question your definition of woo-woo. And I'm thinking of a meeting that you had, Vince, where the woman was talking about her psychedelic experience and her son who sees, he sees spirits or
Yeah, I
communicates.
remember that. Yeah.
That was an interesting meeting.
Yeah.
That was a really profound psychedelic experience she talked about too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a definite questioning. It's provocative, isn't it, to consider? How do you relate to somebody that sees spirits and listens to them? Yeah.
There was good guiding from you and Tyler.
Oh, Tyler's great. I love his guiding. He's really got a great way of seeing things.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Vince, and all. I will not see you next week. I'll be in a cabin on a lake and with like one bar of service, so, and no Wi-Fi. So see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, you have a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'll see you soon.
Okay, Paul, thanks. Mm. Howdy, Scott. Good to see you here.
Hi, Vince.
Yeah. Hi, Irene.
You know you're not muted.
So Dennis, what's it like being awake?
Oh yeah, fully awake here, Vince. Yeah. You're going to keep asking me that every week now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Um, I think the team lately for me is doubt. Definitely doubt, doubt everywhere, doubt. Everything I'm listening to and watching on YouTube is similar to what I was talking to you a couple of weeks ago about that kind of idea of being awake and not knowing it and all that stuff. So, interesting to listen. Been doing a lot of body work this week, actually, a good bit of TRE. And then I found myself one night just putting on music and dancing for like over an hour. And it was like something Indians would do 200 years ago. It was great. Felt really good after it, kind of just getting the body moving, getting the energies moving. That felt really good. Um, but in general, what I'm noticing is there's thoughts, ideas, thoughts, sensations, but beside it or behind it, there's always this sense of just feeling uncomfortable. It's like I'm trying to squirm out of something. The sense of being just something just feels uncomfortable, annoying, and it feels like it's always there.
Mm. And I imagine that you imagine that you've got to get rid of that.
I can see how you might imagine that, but not necessarily. Just for so long, I wasn't looking at it. It was like just you didn't question it. You didn't even think to
Yeah,
kind of
took it as
go. So
normal.
so there's a curiosity now where I'm going, okay, what the hell is this squirmy feeling? It's not. It doesn't feel like thoughts. It's when there's no thoughts or when it's separate from thoughts, and I'm just observing. It's a then you can kind of come in contact with it a little bit. That's what it feels like. And it just feels, uncomfortable or something you want to shake off.
Yeah, you want to shake it off. Yeah. So what do you think it means?
I don't know. Yeah, I suppose what just came up there was not feeling comfortable in your own skin is the way I would express it right now. Um, or another way of saying it is maybe I'm misperceiving something.
Hmm. Could you, can you imagine that that could be there and you would be comfortable with it?
Um, so I'm just trying to check in now. I'm finding it difficult to find it right now. The memory is like it's a thought, but it's not a thought, but it's not nothing, but it could be, let's imagine thoughts form in three stages, and the third stage is I don't know, pink elephant, that it's down in stage one, not stage three, and it's something just calling your attention, or I would have said in the past, making you feel bad without
Mm-hmm.
knowing why. Right now, it's not here. I can easily see.
So so we do this a bit too. We remember that it was present at some point, and we presume its continued existence, even though we're not aware of it. We just presume that. And so, but in
Yeah.
reality, it's not here at the moment. And so whatever it meant, whatever import you put on it, doesn't exist at the moment in reality.
Yeah, I would.
Only with the assumption that, yes, it must be there in the background and I just don't feel it. So therefore I'll still react as if it is there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it comes and goes. And I think what I want to say about it is it's here when I'm here. If that makes any sense.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. So maybe that's a
Uh,
remnant of self, or at least it's indicative of a remnant of self. See, now also see this idea of giving things meaning too. So you were saying earlier that doubt is a predominant thing at the moment. Again, doubt is only there when you think about it, eh? If you don't think
of
about
course.
it, there's no doubt. And
Mm,
interestingly, doubt is the second fetter, right? So we can have got through the first fetter, okay, and be awake and still have doubt. So doubt doesn't mean that you're not awake, does it? Even though
I don't
doubt
know,
is
but
about being not awake, it's just another thought, isn't it?
yeah, but I think
Or is
I'm
it?
pretty
Yeah.
sure. I'm pretty sure that that hasn't happened yet, and that thing, Gensho or whatever, that shift, that's something significant changes, isn't something that's happened or experienced or whatever way you want to put it.
Yeah.
And I know people can say, well, everyone's awake, they just don't know it. Grant, that's not going to do anyone any good if they're
Yeah. That's just
they'll
yeah.
believe
But
they're asleep.
yeah.
So
So I don't. I'm not saying that, no, but I'm saying that you are through that first fetter. You know, you recognise that there is no self running the show. Correct.
I don't know if I do. The best I can say is I've searched through the guide and through stuff for a long time. I've searched for myself, haven't found myself, but I still believe there's a self.
Based on what?
I still take myself to be this person, this body. I still see from this point of view, and my point of view versus, well, I can see from others' point of view as well. But
So would there still be a self if you were brain dead, if you had no thoughts?
yes, well, like what I'm pointing at is you can see and look and experience without thoughts or inputs. The looking or the silence is always here. That's what I mean by yes. If the brain isn't functioning, but then I don't know that for sure because I never
Yeah,
had my
of
brain
course,
not
yeah.
working.
So, but in this hypothetical situation, uh, you're perfectly healthy. You just have no thoughts. That part of your brain is not working. Yeah. So there is a part of the brain that produces a sense of self. This is what we're working with, really. But if that part of your brain was dead, like the Jill Taylor Bolte experience, where she had an aneurysm and that part of her brain died uh, for a while, there is no feeling that says there is a self there. The body continues on. The body can continue to do its usual functions, and maybe not navigate through a city or at the shops or whatever, but nevertheless it could still eat and digest and do all of the things that body does. And you're saying if that was the case, you imagine that body is the self, eh?
No, not necessarily the body. I mean, the body's operating, like you said, all by itself. My legs are crossed. I didn't actively say, let's cross my legs. So what I mean by the self is the I suppose I'd call it the silent seeing, the isness of the moment, the aliveness of now. Before, a thought or an emotion or something that calls for attention and contracts you into a situation or an emotion or a conversation. It's before that.
Mm.
And it's what I imagine people point at, but I can't be 100% sure because what I'm sensing or knowing or intuiting could be, it feels like the very ground of being, but in your experience, it could be something physical. I don't know.
Mm.
If I've got that wrong, I'm really off track altogether.
Who knows? Yeah, it's all thought. Help me out here, John Lee. What do you reckon? What can we do with David besides slap him around?
I like the way you've given me a new name there, Vince.
Oh, sorry, Dennis. Well, isn't that amazing? I just said David and then later realized, not until you said it did I realize that I'd said it, but then my memory pulled it back in and I remembered what I said. Yeah. Yeah.
Dennis, what would a awake person feel like to you? How would they experience? If you were fully awake, how would you experience?
Yeah, what comes straight away would be kind of alive and fearless and in a way childlike, that innocent sort of bravado, just an ability to be in the world authentically and free and alive. And yeah, that's kind of what that's how I would answer that. Yeah.
And if, say that you were that, could you feel that, some of that now?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And if someone was completely free and alive, and this a thought of doubt came along, are they then not awake?
I know how I handle that, and there's been occasions where you don't see it and you go into a spin, or you let the emotion take over and you have, maybe you get upset or you have an argument, and then there might be times where you can just see it and catch yourself and laugh. At different times it's different, but how an awake person might experience that, I don't know. So that's what I'm looking to find out, how that might be in that scenario.
Isn't it just another thought and a feeling when doubt passes by?
Yeah, yeah, it is, but it has something to it, or it feels visceral in the body. It feels like the way and I was going to say this to Vince a minute ago, and I feel I feel good when I'm on these calls. I feel I'm in a space where I can be myself and talk, and people are here to help and listen. So that brings its own uniqueness to it. But in general in life, when I look at myself around the house or with the family, I see myself as this sort of serious person. Can be grumpy, quiet, just, and I don't like that, and it's part of that. This feeling of wanting to get out of something is there. It's like my conditioning is just um, running the show in day to day life, and that bothers me. That I'm not how we described how someone awake might be, a better version of themselves, or just a better. I suppose I have an idea.
Did you hear
I have
that?
an
A better
idea where
version of himself?
or just
Did you hear
something
yourself
radically
say
different.
that?
Yeah, well, it's just words. I mean, I could
Yeah.
spend longer trying to think of a better way of saying it, but
Mm.
I suppose you could reverse it and say I'm not happy with myself.
What would you tell Dennis, Yana? I love putting people on the spot here.
Oh, it's great. Actually, I wanted to talk about this, and I was going to actually kind of say something similar. So I have that feeling a lot too, that sort of uncomfortable in my body, even though I went through the gate and this kind of stuff. And there was like a honeymoon period, and then lately it got to a point of just like everything just felt almost too close and too intense. Almost didn't even want to be around people because the intensity just was something I wasn't experienced in, I guess, before. And I think probably it was from being very disconnected to the body. And then once you get out of your head and learn to do that and you get connected to the body, then maybe, people that have done a lot of work before, done trauma work before, maybe that doesn't happen after awakening. Anyway, a friend recommended, and a lot of people have recommended that IFS system, internal family systems. And I bought the book No Bad Parts, and really, I literally just read the first exercise, and for a week, diligently have done the first exercise, and it's amazing. And I'll just sum it up a little bit to say that for me, what it is that it's just something needs to be heard, right? It's like it doesn't take years and mountains and I don't know. I don't think so. It's just something, there's something there that wants to be heard. There's a part of you that wants to be seen, I guess. And just sort of, and you can do it, like I was amazed. Like I felt like I could do it myself. Like I could map out. So like the times whenever you just, feel heavy, it's like, what is that heaviness? What's it really protecting? Is kind of what the book asks. Like what would happen if you really listen to that little Dennis that's saying XYZ makes me grumpy, or like what would happen, like what's being protected there.
Yeah, that's really helpful because you've reminded me of what exactly it is. Yeah, it's anger. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's I had a name for it the other day. It projected outward anger at some other people. I wasn't calling it anger. I was calling it something else, but it had use to it. I can't think of it now, but I know in general it's anger.
So
Yeah.
I was going to say what you're talking about, Yana, there is really it's shadow work, isn't it?
I think so.
Something that's been repressed, and yeah. You feel like it's that anger sitting on top of something, Dennis?
The anger sitting on top of hurt, yeah, definitely shame. I'm no good. They're all down there. I've been down there before. They all live down there. Uh,
How would you approach it, Paul?
and the only other bit I'd say is there's a sense of, it feels like there's a sense of not being seen. I wasn't seen. Not necessarily now, but in the past.
Okay. Am I the only Paul in here?
Yep, that's I was
You're
talking to
wrong.
you. Yeah.
You said you want to be authentically in the world and be childlike. What is it? I mean, you're a human being, so you're already being. What's the authentic part? What would you be if you were authentic?
One thing that comes up, Paul, is maybe less of this reflecting back in to check if what I'm going to say is okay or what I'm going to do is okay, or a sort of a checking mechanism. That wouldn't be
Nope.
there.
Okay. Anything else?
Um,
What else would
yeah, I think
authentic be?
it would be the absence of fear in how you express yourself in the world. So you wouldn't be afraid, whether it's afraid to say something or do something or be vulnerable or, you know, uh, open up more to people, that childlike vulnerability. Then I know as you get older, you discern a wisdom about, well, that mightn't be appropriate in certain situations. You have to kind of use the head and the heart together. So, but that's sort of what's coming up when you're asking me that.
Okay. Well, let's just look at being without the baggage.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned childlike, and that's what this is like, I guess. It's more of a innocence. So right now, without just, I want you to put aside enlightenment for 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Okay.
I want you to put aside the fact that nothing's going to happen to you, so there's no fear. Put aside the fact that you don't need to check what you say. Certainly in this group, you can say anything you want in this group. Put aside any worries about the future. Put aside ambition. Put aside nonsense from the past that doesn't exist anymore. You're that child that doesn't have all that. Just sit there right now, no ambition. You're not going anywhere. You're not trying to do anything. You're just going to exist. You're going to be. Simple existence. No ambition, no fear, no worries of the tomorrow, no worries of the past. Simple existence. I want you to just exist right now. Thoughts can come and go. Thoughts can come and go, but you're just existing. They're not touching you. They can't touch existence. Just exist. Just be right now. How does that feel?
For a couple of seconds, it felt natural, and then what I'm noticing, Paul, is my visual field is going all weird. I can see you on the screen, but the everything around me is kind of flickering and flashing and dissolving and coming in and out, and so my attention's been drawn to the visual field is going a bit weird.
Okay. Well, don't worry about the visual field. Come back to it. You're just going to exist no matter what shows up. Thoughts come and go. Visual nonsense comes and goes. You're just going to exist as life. You're going to just be. You're not even going to be authentic. You're just going to be without a label. Just exist right now. Just be. How does it feel?
It doesn't feel like anything.
Okay. How
Just
does it
feels like
feel?
awareness.
Okay.
It just feels like awareness, Paul. And I don't even think that's a feeling. It's just
Okay. Can anything really touch that?
I don't know. What would want to touch it?
Anything. Can a thought touch it?
No. Thoughts
So what
appear
are
in it.
you? So what are you?
I don't know.
Good.
But I feel like I'm noticing that you've pointed to.
Good.
There's a real urge to go, but it still feels like two.
Real urge to what?
To say that it still feels like two, that, and then me.
But you do see it.
I'm aware of it.
Okay.
The mind wants
Practice
to
it.
go off looking for me now.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a habit. It's a nice little exercise. Practice it. Just exist. Simplest thing in the world.
Yeah, this feels like natural meditation to me. Um, yeah, I'm just noticing the real desire to do something, say something. Lots of buts.
So can you
Yeah,
see? Go on.
no, I was just going to say, and yet when I stay there, I can respond instantly, authentically, and uh, quickly with questions and things like that. It's not difficult.
Hmm.
Well, you said you wanted to be authentic. Now you are.
Yeah, I need to stretch it out a bit longer, Paul.
Well, work on it.
But can you see that inclination to do whatever to get busy is a way of getting away from that?
Yeah, definitely, because that's not it.
What's not it? The inclination to get away, or where you're sitting?
Where I'm sitting.
Oh, okay. So that feels authentic, but it's not authentic. It's not. What do you mean it's not it?
Well, it may be it, but it's, I suppose the way I'd say it is it feels like I'm the problem.
So it just occurred to me. Do you think that waking up is having a self that's awake?
No.
Okay.
No, I've heard enough about that to know that, well, I say to know, but people have said that the self has to be seen through and eventually fall away. But I can't do that.
So what if it doesn't fall away because it never existed as something that can fall away? What if it was always a mental construct, and that it will continue, but it will just be recognized to be a mental construct from that moment on? So it's not going to go anywhere. It's not a real self that's there. It's just an idea that we respond to that gives us the impression of a self. And that will always be there. It'll just be seen for what it is, though. So the
Yeah,
delusion.
I was just going to say, Vince, yeah, I'd settle for that realization.
Mm,
Can I chime in?
yeah, please.
I you're in a place where what I'm hearing is okay. I'll start again. There's this. I read this quote, or someone said it to me, where they said the human or the animal, which is the body, that doesn't become awake. Awakeness is awake. It's already awake. It's always been awake. And then what that did to me, I was kind of like, I'm kind of like, yeah, there's awakeness, but then I was trying to like push myself away. It's like, this isn't awake. It was very violent. It was kind of like, I'm pushing myself away. I don't want this. I didn't want this. But then once you start to like, oh, awakeness kind of, what if it includes this? Like life was awake itself, like probably 90% of it, and then the 10% here, the body, it wasn't. But if you include it, if it's all included, they kind of like, oh, I can kind of relax. I don't need to do anything. It's already awake. There's a lot of violence there.
I hear what you're saying, John. Yeah. But it's not landing the way some things would land. And like, if awakeness is awake, what knows that? And then,
Awakeness.
yeah, but I don't know that.
What is this I that doesn't know that? Show it to me.
Yeah, so that's the number of my issue. When I look for it, I can't find it. I can only find silence, stillness, nothing. But yet those words come out of my mouth from nowhere.
So are you getting what John Lee says at a deeper level? Are you getting that all of this, everything that you experience, can still be there, and you'll be awake? None of it means that you're not awake. It's all
I think I can
inclusive.
intellectually understand it, Vince. Yeah.
Yeah. But how it's one thing that people often say when they wake up is that nothing has changed, but everything is different. And now that kind of gives you a bit of a clue, I think, that all of this stuff that you experience is still there. But what's different is what you used to believe it meant, what you think it means.
Yeah, I can get behind that, but I
Yeah,
can't. I haven't said that yet because I haven't had that shift yet.
Mm. Well, you have had that shift. You just haven't had a big jolt of a shift. You have had that shift in that you've moved through a whole lot of things and you're seeing the world quite differently to the way you used to see it. It's just snuck up on you. That's what's happening.
Well, how do you know that?
Well, you know when you know. You just know. I mean, that's not an answer, but it's a description. And the difference, the only thing with you is you don't know yet. When you know it, you'll see the world from a different perspective. All that shit will still be there. All of those things will still be there. You'll just see them differently. So that's what it is, yeah. There's no cutting off a part and throwing it away. It's the opposite, in fact. It's like those parts will embrace and hold closer and love them rather than not want them.
Yeah, that's definitely an assumption that was running, that things will maybe fall away or not have to deal with them, or as opposed to, like you said, embracing them, healing them, bringing them in.
Yeah. And the big one is that it's not that you can't do any of that. It's something that'll happen or not. Yeah.
But I feel a real sense of keeping a lid on it a little bit, but it's a real frustration, with this, you haven't realized, or it's a bit slow burn, or it's up on you slowly. Like, I'm like, this is supposed to be the biggest fucking shift of your life. Surely to Jesus you'd remember it or know it if it happened. So when you're saying you have, I'm like, I fucking haven't. And I feel cheated if I had.
Now that's a big one. That's a big one. That's a really, really big one. Yeah. Yeah. The world has promised you bells and whistles and bliss and all of that stuff. And if this is it, how fucking disappointing is it, eh? God,
I'd settle for
disappointing.
a little aha.
You'd settle for a little yeah. That'll happen. Yeah, that will. And when it happens, you'll go, oh God, I can't believe that I couldn't see it. You will. Yeah. And that'll be your shift. That'll be what it is. It'll be something. It won't be a huge thing like that. Maybe it might, but not likely. It'll just be, oh God, I can't believe it's not butter or whatever. Yeah. And it's as thick as a human hair, that and it's pretty strong, but it'll break, and then you'll see. Yeah. So you just need to be patient. You're so close. You're just so close all the time. It's just going to be that little change of perspective, and all of a sudden it'll be like, when you're a long way away, and say you let's say a door is open and it's only open about an inch, and you're right at the other side of the room, and you can just see this crack of light coming through. And as you get closer and closer and closer, it doesn't seem to change a lot. But if you put your eye right up against it, guess what? Now the crack's not a crack anymore. You're seeing through it, and it's entirely different. And it's a bit like that, and you're just still a few meters away, but you're about to put your eye up against it. I promise you,
Yeah.
you are about to put your eye up against it and see through that crack. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do. I trust your instinct, and I feel like I'm doing everything I can.
Well, there's a problem.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Well, no, I just mean, like, I mean practically. I mean, TRE with tightness of the body, stress. I'm I just feel I'm showing up where I can and when I can to
Mm.
practicing. All that meditation stuff's gone away. It's gone away a number of years. I did loads of it, and I'm doing inquiry more so now. And I it feels like, oh, I have so much energy and desire to start cracking away at these fetters or these later today. I just get that first shift now, and then Jesus, we'll work through the rest of it.
Yeah, I can remember that. I can remember feeling like that. That intensity is just almost too much. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like we've got this thing that, yeah, that's the way through. We've got to just be so intense that something breaks and we'll be there. When in fact it's almost the opposite. It's like, yeah, when you give up and you stop trying, there it'll be. Yeah. Oh.
Dennis, have you seen that? I don't know. Did you do that retreat with Panilla?
No, I've never done anything. I've watched a couple of her videos, and then I've watched a couple of her videos with Todd. But no, never done any retreats or anything like that. I was recently on the Angelo's retreat there, the online one for 4 days.
In Panilla's retreat, she showed a image, like it was an optical illusion, and it was like 3 circles, and it formed a triangle inside, if that makes sense. But the triangle wasn't there. It was just space, right? And then that they said the triangle is the self we think is there, but really it was just an optical illusion created by those circles with like the edges. Yeah. And then they said the circles are actually the thoughts and emotions. So every thought that you have and every emotion that you have, they're just thoughts and emotions. And then what did it for me was once you stop connecting them and then assuming the self is there, you're just like, oh, it's just a thought and emotion. That's the thing that like kind of pushed away my doubt. I could just see them as they are.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, John. Like I can see the same thing. I don't feel attached to thoughts or emotions per se, even when there's no thoughts or emotions operating. And as Paul said, I'm just being. There's nothing going on. It's silence, quiet. The body's doing its thing. You can see, but you're still. Yet in that, there still feels like a sense of I that can notice that. So it's that subtle duality of that and what notices it before any thought forms. I can say I'm noticing, and I know I'm using thoughts to express what I'm saying, but it's before all that. So there's that subtle duality of that and what's noticing that. And I know conceptually they're both the same thing. I've heard enough people talk about it, but I'm not going to just swallow that concept. I'm still there. There's that, and there's what's noticing that.
And you think the noticer is you. Is the I.
When I look for the noticer, I can't find it.
What's looking for the noticer?
I was about to say I don't know, but I'm just looking. So give me a minute. Which is the looking. I'm hesitant to say this because I need to sit with it longer. But in that experience, which is no different from any other noticing, it maybe it's noticing itself. And then the I thought it's subtly coming back in to say, well, maybe it's this type of thought that's a couple of levels down, that's subtle, energetic or something. Am I overcomplicating this?
Is the looker and the noticer, that's two separate things?
No. It feels truer to say there's just noticing.
Is noticing awake?
What I want to say to that is noticing doesn't know what awake is. You could have just said blah, blah, blah.
Is noticing asleep?
No,
So what is it?
it's lovely.
Mm-hmm. Does noticing need a noticer?
No, no, Paul. When you said notice, or it was like, what are you even talking about? It's just noticing.
So where does that stop and a person takes over, a self takes over? So if there's just noticing, that's beautiful and that's accurate, I think. So if there's just noticing, there is just everything. So at what point does a self come in and claim ownership and doership? Or does it? Maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, I feel like to answer your question, I'd have to do it. I'd have to let the mind spin up and get louder and start taking over again.
Okay, you said it. You just said it. What did you say it again? Say it again. You'd have to let mind.
Yeah, the mind start up and take over again.
Right. So that's the self, is it?
I don't know what you mean.
So the self would be there if mind started up and took over again. But if the mind doesn't do that, there's no self there. Is that what you're saying?
No, Jesus.
Right.
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, the desire is to just sit here and not engage and be the self. There's a fear to converse again will engage the self and bring me back to where we have problems again.
Yeah. So go to that imaginary. Use your imagination and go to that point where you would engage the self again. And so self is
Yeah,
not
okay.
always there. Okay, it's only there when you engage it.
Yeah. So I don't really want to, but I could just say, well, so what? This state is just here. So what?
Hmm. Well, say it. I mean, that's good value.
Um, like I've been in this state before. I've felt this deeply, and yet life happens and pulls me out again, and I'm back to being
Okay.
someone.
Right. So you can be awake for a moment and then not awake.
I don't know if it's awake. I just know that I can be peaceful.
Okay. Hmm. So if in that state where you are peaceful, when you're experiencing that, there's no push or pull from a self. It's disengaged, so to speak. You're in neutral rather than in a gear.
Yeah, there's very subtle thoughts trying to get off the ground, but they're at volume 1 instead of volume 10, and they're
Right.
just not energized.
Yep. And so they're easy to
You don't have enough energy to get off
allow.
the ground.
Yeah. They're there, but they're not. You're not engaged with them. They're not dominant.
No, exactly.
Mm. So if that were the case for you a lot of the time, would that be okay? Could you still operate in the world?
Oh yeah.
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 And if we called that place, that state, that experience being awake, would that be okay? Or would that still be disappointing?
No, it'll be fine. No, it wouldn't be disappointing. No, I don't want to. I don't want to over offer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And of course in that state you could operate fine in the world and there's nothing to do except enjoy it, eh? In that state.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say enjoy. I'd say there's nothing to do except respond. That's what it feels like now.
Mm. And you would respond differently than you would when that other way of being is there. You'd be much lighter about the way you responded, much.
It feels like an emotionless state. So to say yes to your question, there'd be a presumption that you wouldn't get emotional, and I wouldn't be able to make that presumption. So, but maybe there'd be a freedom with those emotions, that they're just more fluid and less
Mm.
caught up. But I'm just
Mm.
imagining.
Yeah. But you're imagining it and feeling it at the same time, eh? Because in that state that you're in now, where you are really relaxed and peaceful, you can imagine it. You can almost feel it. Can you feel it?
Feel what again?
Just peaceful, calm, relaxed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it reports in the sense of the body feels, well, I can feel the body. There's also at the core a sort of a stillness,
Mm.
the silence, the emptiness.
Now I imagine that you think or imagine or believe that this will get broken when you go back out into the world, or when you resume the role of father, family member, husband, whatever. And that it's difficult for you to imagine that you could take this with you into those roles.
It's always here,
Ooh.
but so I don't have a choice. Like I can't say, oh, I'll take it into those roles or I won't take it into those roles. I mean, it's the foundation of everything. It's there all the time, but it's but then something changes or something happens to cause something, I'm not even going to say me, to contract with emotions and thoughts and conclusions, and then anxieties and fears and worries and all that storm kicks up. And this is useless because it doesn't do anything about it.
Mm. You know, it seems from what you're saying that you know that underneath that storm, all that other stuff, this is still there.
Yeah, this allows everything.
So can you imagine that in the beginning of your time as an awake person, that stormy stuff will still visit, but that they'll become less and less frequent as you normalize into this place. You'll never always stay in this place. There will always be variations of the storm that'll turn up, but there will also be a knowing in the middle of the storm that the storms used to be so pervasive that there was no awareness of this state when you were in the storms, but that the time will come when the storms will happen, but in the middle of them, you'll remember that this state does exist, and that remembering will be enough to take you out of the storm.
Yeah.
When
No,
that
and that's
happens.
been happening, Vince. I mean, that's been
Yeah.
happening for 10 plus years.
Right.
Like one way I could say it was you could have an argument with somebody and be in a huff for 3 days. And now you might, or then over time you'd be having the argument, you'd realize, we're having and then you'd laugh.
Yeah.
And so it's very slow to kind of go, you're not as contracted or caught with this stuff. So that's definitely been a slow burn. But it's like when you're talking to me, it's like you're talking and you know something, and John knows something, and Paul knows something, and in a way you're trying to convince me of it, and I don't know it,
Man,
and I don't
you
even know
know
what
it
you
as
know.
well. You do know it. You just don't know that you know it. You do know it. You know what the stuff you're describing is exactly what my life is like. Jesus. Yeah.
Anyway, I think I've taken up enough time. Maybe there's other people who want to chat.
Yeah, you're not worth more time.
Well, I can't make it happen, you see. Well, if I believe what people say, and I suppose if I believe nobody may as well not come on here, but people say, you can't make it happen, it happens by itself. So,
yeah.
Well, Dennis, I'll give you another minute. First of all, forget about non-duality. That causes nothing but confusion. Stay in duality. Let's just stay subject object, because suffering isn't inherent in the subject object dichotomy. It's just the misidentification of the subject. What you saw a minute ago was what I'll call the proper subject, which is noticing. It's not an object. It's not a true subject. It's a process. It's a fluid. Noticing is happening now. If there's a subject, and I use subject as a placeholder, not an object, a subject as a placeholder for a fluid happening, life happening, noticing, knowing what's going on. The object is all of those thoughts about Dennis. Because if you look at the character Dennis, it's just a series of dissimilar and sometimes similar thoughts. There are 10,000 Dennises, but there's only one knowing of those 10,000 thoughts. There's only one noticing of those 10,000 thoughts about Dennis. Those 10,000 thoughts of Dennis are objects. What you are is what you saw. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely.
So just let go of the whole non-dual thing. It's nothing but confusion. You know, I have real questions as to whether that can actually even exist within the human conceptual framework. Forget it. Think of the subject as what that is noticing. Just noticing. It doesn't need to be a noticer. It's just the knowing of what's going on. The knowing of the thoughts of Dennis coming and going. That's it. It hides. It's so simple. It hides in plain sight. You saw it.
Hmm?
You following me?
Yeah. It's still here now. Like yeah.
Well, it's always there. It's always been there.
Hmm.
Always. You just stop noticing it because you're tied up in 10,000 thoughts about Dennis. When you were a child, you didn't have 10,000 thoughts about Dennis. You had maybe 100. Three. Not really a burden there.
Exactly.
The noticing is it. So stay in subject object. There's no problem with it. I mean, you can stop suffering within the subject object framework. Just noticing. That's where you are. That's where you at. That's what you are. You see that?
Yeah. My mind went, well, what about when I get angry? And then the noticing just kind of, it just
Anger
noticed that
comes
too.
and goes. Anger comes and goes. Anger is another object that comes and goes. The noticing is not angry. There's only the noticing of the angry. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Now, anger is just a feeling in a body. You notice the body. You notice the anger. You notice everything. But noticing isn't that. Nothing touches noticing.
Yeah, it happens real fast when you're just noticing. Because, the anger and then noticing that and not reacting to it brings up fear of, no control, and noticing that, this could drop.
But the anger isn't you.
No, the noticing sees through stuff really quickly.
Right.
And that's exactly the
Notice.
way it happens for me. I guess I still get triggered and get angry, but I notice
Right.
it and it stops. It goes away. So, when I notice it, it induces humor. There's always a bit of a chuckle about the fact that I was as angry, but it still happens. Mind you, it only happens occasionally for me these days, maybe once a week, but it still happens.
Jesus ran the money changers out of the temple. If he can get angry, you certainly can. Doesn't mean anything.
What if I said,
It feels
Dennis?
like,
What if
go
I
on,
said,
Vince, say it.
Yep, there's that chink in the doorway that for you to look through, right? One thing you need to do: stop seeking. Okay.
Mm.
There's that if it could happen, that was my portal that I fell through. Was that the mosquito bite of seeking will never heal while I keep scratching it, and it is a sore. Being a seeker is like having a sore, and so stop seeking, and you'll be there. Full stop. Now, if that doesn't bring up fear, I don't know what will.
What it brings up is, if I'm being completely honest, I don't know that I can stop seeking, But there is a real sense of the seeking keeps me going.
Mm. Yeah. Well, you cannot be a seeker and be awake at the same time. And the difference is that being a seeker is being identified, and being awake is not being identified.
But what is seeking?
What you're doing, looking for something in the future.
No, but what's looking for that?
Oh, that's irrelevant. Don't go down that rabbit hole.
Because
That's,
being isn't looking for that.
no, being's quite happy where it is, eh? And you've experienced that. You know what that is. That's not a fantasy for you. You were doing it just a moment ago.
It's really just thoughts creating the illusion of seeking.
Absolutely. And then responding to them. I've got to keep going. I've got to find this thing. If I don't find this thing, I'm doomed. Or life will be shit or what something, you know?
It's like it's ingrained in the cellular level of the body. It's not okay not to know. You got to know shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? That's a real big one. But you also know that that's shit, don't you?
Yeah, it's just another thought.
Mm. But it's well ingrained because that's the way we've been trained all our life. We've got to know stuff.
Yeah, it's not safe not to know.
Mm.
It kind of keeps going back to fear.
There's an irony here, and that is that I know that I don't know anything, but you think I know lots, and I don't. I talk like I know that, but I don't know anything. So what you think I've got that you haven't got is it's a fantasy.
Yeah,
So when I
yeah,
say
I'm enlightened.
I know nothing, it's not quite true. I do know. Well, if we examine that, we'll realise I don't. But on the surface, I can say I do know that I don't know. I do know that I'm so pleased to not be feeling the way you feel often. So I do know that when I get angry, that it doesn't mean anything. It certainly doesn't mean that I'm not awake. But I also know if we go down that road that I know that being awake is a lot of bullshit. There's no such thing. It's just a different perspective. That's all. And consequently, a different experience. My memory tells me that what I used to experience, which was frustration every single day, many times a day, I get frustrated over the smallest thing. And then that frustration would turn into anger if there was somebody around for me to express it. Yeah. That used to be my life. Now, if I get angry once a week, and I hardly ever get frustrated these days, but it's changed. So
Yeah,
I know that. I know something's different.
for me, it feels like again, we're trading stories, but my anxiety and my fear and worry, it, it's like, I just want to deal with that. Like at one point there, I said to you, forget about enlightenment, like just, I want to deal with that. And to my knowledge, that's repressed anger causing that. And so to be able to express and feel
Yeah,
anger
yeah.
in a healthy way. But again, this is all story. Angela says, forget all that shit, just wake up and you can deal with it all. So
Well, that's true.
that's
That's
partly
true.
why
But
I'm so
yeah,
keen to wake up to deal with all this stuff or to have it dealt with.
yeah, yeah. Or you can go down the road that Yana went down and go looking for what that's about, and you might be lucky and find it like she was. But you don't need to. That's just one way of doing it. It might or might not happen. See, the thing is, we don't control anything. So if that happens, if you happen to pick up the right book or watch the right video, then that'll get you excited and you'll go down that road. But nothing is mandatory.
Yeah, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah, nothing to do. Yeah.
Crack open a beer.
Yeah, do that. Yeah. Okay.
Do you, one last thing, do you see, one more minute, do you see that you have a belief that that an awake person can't be angry, can't feel anger?
No, I don't have that belief. I believe, let me say it this way. I believe that they can appear as anger in its purest form. Like a flower appears as a flower before its petals fall off. But what I'm doing is some sort of I'm butchering it in some way, or not allowing it to express. I'm throttling it, or it's a broken something, and it's, so they're doing it, dare I say, better, but they're doing it more authentically, or it's been done through them more authentically. That's my answer to that one, John.
My anger is better than your anger.
Is the throttling the thought, I don't
It's not
want to
fake.
feel anger? Oh, yes. Is that the same thing?
Yeah.
So you're saying, are you saying an awake person doesn't mind anger and you do? Is that the main difference?
Well, yeah, I would say it like this way, like, we're not talking about the problem of my happiness and my smiling and my laughing. So the awake person smiles and laughs, and they're angry in the same way. They're both natural. For me, one's natural and the other's not.
So maybe this is the path. Have you ever, or can you feel anger now?
Yeah, and I've been allowing it through the conversation in the form of a frustration, that I'm not just going to pretend to respond the way I think I should. Like and it's been picked up as, in a way, being a bit combative or a bit kind of questioning, which feels way more authentic than just going along with it, and then kind of it feels gritty, but it's not full on. Because there's an audience, it's been recorded, so there's factors that kind of change how you are, but that's just intelligence.
Can you pretend for a moment you're awake,
Okay.
and fully feel that anger now?
You want me to stop the recording? I'll do that if you want to really let it out.
No. Right now, there's no anger on you lovely people. There's a sense of love.
Dennis, you're taking up too much time.
Shut your mouth, John, right?
Hey,
The anger is sort of in some sort of mechanism of self-reflection. I don't know. I'm not angry at you people, so I'm like,
Have you tried separating the mind and then just going to the sensation? Because that's what awake people do.
yeah. Well, I was going to say that. Like right now, I can't find anger. All I can find is a sensation in the chest, a heaviness, an aliveness
Can we
in the
try
chest.
that on that?
Try what on it?
Try to feel that heaviness. What does that feel like?
Right now, it's just a vibration.
Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it small? Is it big? Is it moving?
It's just sitting in the lower chest above the diaphragm. It's the size of a, 3 tennis ball size, 2 tennis ball size, and it's just a feeling of vibration that's there.
If you were to label it, what is it?
It's spreading out across my chest into my shoulders a little bit. I don't really have a label for it. I could say energy.
That's okay.
Or aliveness. It's moving into the throat a little bit, and feels cool.
So the next time anything comes up and you kind of like, this is the whirlwind you were talking about. Try this.
Will do, John.
You can stop talking now.
I'm sorry y'all failed, but anyway, we'll have a go next week. Thanks everybody for your time and comments.
How are you, Sebastian?
Yeah, I can relate almost everything what was discussed in the last 1 hour. about doubt, about anxiety. I had, I think, this kind of what you call shift or split in the identity, or in not identifying myself with all these troubles, with all these thoughts. I could take a step back. Maybe that's a better way to formulate it. But still, everything is there. So what I experienced in the last half year after this AU guide sessions and lots of books and YouTube videos, and I had a very interesting winter time, autumn time, where somehow this split came through. I don't know how. I don't know if it has to do anything with the books, the chats, the videos, the years I spent with as a Zen practitioner, all those painful hours of meditation. But somehow there is no way back in this. This is the experience now. So when the perspective changes, it changes maybe forever. I don't know. And in my story, there is a very hard time now. So I feel myself like grapes in a wine press. I'm building a retreat center by myself. It takes 12, 13 hours of work every day, since a lot of months, years now. And the experience is that when the body is exhausted, when you have neurological problems because of this, and there is sleeping disorder, and there is anxiety, and there is fear, existential fear or financial fear or any kind of fear, and a lot of doubt is rising from nothing. This perspective is not changing. So I'm not identifying myself anymore with these feelings. They are there, and they have an effect of my body. They have an effect on how I sleep. So it's not. The hard thing is to accept everything and have gratitude also for these hard times, or also for the fear, because it's strange. It's like a feeling that I'm not dreaming these things. I'm not the dreamer. I am somehow the dream. So this is somehow happening. It's like, also with this retreat center, I'm building many objects, many things, yurts and buildings and everything, and it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of financial anxiety. Will I manage it to the end? A lot of things from the past, like epigenetical things, like what came from my parents, came from my childhood. So these things are not vanishing. These things are part of the story. And when I'm exhausted, when the body is exhausted, when I don't get enough sleep, for example, I experience that the selfing is coming back. So the identification starts to suck me in, and it's like good old times. But when I thought that I am the fear, I am the anxiety, and I am not good enough, and I should made better decisions, and all this self-blaming and self-hate and everything comes back. And I'm 41, but I'm still forgetting to sleep. And it's sometimes easy as that you have to sleep, because you have to take a break, because the body, the mind is one side of the coin. So it's 50% of all of this. So instead of blaming myself, hurting myself, doing this spiritual bypassing that after all these meditations and all these wonderful experiences, I'm not allowed to feel these things, and I'm not allowed to just feel like shit. And it's a bit of a flip-flopping, not like before the shift or before, I don't know better words. So the split or the understanding of this, it's not that deep. So I'm not identifying myself with these things. Somehow this stepping back one step remains. So it's somehow a very it's like a dichotomy, you say, no, that there is the observer, or this different perspective which came from nowhere, and there is the dreamer, there is the story, and that's wonderful. I think that I'm really grateful for this, that it can be very heavy, it can be very hard, but it's different. Like how you said it before, Vince, that I can be very angry, I can be very stressful, I can make bad decisions, and for a moment even I can blame this non-existing self for making a bad decision. But somehow I'm in the same time I'm coming back to this strange observer perspective, like watching a movie, and I feel empathy for the characters, I feel love or hate for the characters played by actors, but in the same time I have this strange experience that I know that this is on a screen, that I'm watching a movie. I could somehow describe it like this. That there is sufferance, there is suffering, but there is no fighting the suffering anymore. Because suffering is not suffering itself. It's this everlasting struggle, this fight against suffering, that what is not enough. It should be different. And there is somehow an acceptance that this is happening now. I'm really exhausted. I didn't take the time to have a break, to sleep, and my nervous system is overreacting. My body gets weaker, and yeah, this is the story. But there is no one to blame there. There is no one to feel shame about these things. But still, it affects the body. So this is a strange thing, that still I have, when I don't take time to take a break, or when there is really a lot of hardship and struggling, then it can affect the body. And for me, I am learning now this acceptance that you have to sleep, man. You have to take a break, and this is how it goes. You are human. You are in a human body. You are doing now or fulfilling a great vision in this story, in this life, and it's normal to not being perfect. It's normal to being exhausted. And yeah. So, and there is also doubt a lot of times that which I know it's okay.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Difficult place you're in. Yeah. Yeah. Trick. Has the paradox occurred to you that you're building a retreat where people can come and be calm and relaxed, but you're building it with all this stress? So the building itself is full of stress.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I mean, it's part of the story. It
Yeah,
doesn't mean
yeah.
anything. It's just in the moment I feel stressed because the carpenter didn't finish the job as I wanted or something like this. But it's okay to be pissed. So
yeah, I get it. I get it.
Somehow this whole thing is about, for me, it's about love. I mean, self-love. It's a stupid word, but
yeah, no, I get it. That's a big thing. Yeah.
To love and to accept, and this acceptance is somehow gratitude to being alive. Also, when I feel like I'm not the man I want to be, or I'm not fast enough, I'm making mistakes, etc. But come on, I mean,
yeah,
this is story. This is my story. This is life. I mean, I am healthy, and even if I wouldn't be healthy, maybe that would be also great challenge to accept that one. But yeah, sometimes it works really good. So sometimes they're really the little Buddha and accepting everything, and everything flows, and it's like a movie to watch, really strange somehow without anybody doing anything, or it's just flowing. And sometimes it's like really hard. It's like being
the opposite.
And to accept also the other side, that being I don't know, enlightened or realized or whatever, it doesn't mean that these things can't come up. I mean, it would be also a bit boring, no? To feel
sure, yeah,
like in a swimming pool. And
so yeah, so your story, you know, you're very quite parallel with Dennis in some ways, except you've got the extra burden, and that you have experienced being awake. That's a horrible saying, isn't it? But you've experienced that shift. You've experienced that beautiful honeymoon period, and Dennis hasn't. So that's the main difference. So, but yours is an extra burden. That is an extra burden because you just want to get back to that, eh? That seems to be the case. Yeah,
but somehow, you know, I'm there always.
Yes.
Or it's there always. So I'm realizing that it's there always, also in the most painful moments when I feel like crap and everything goes in another direction like this guy wants. And so it's really a paradox. It's like being torn in these two ways of human existence, mere human existence, and this kind of very calm and flowing wholeness experience. And this can be very tiring. This can be hard sometimes, but then again, I can also repeat myself that I have to accept that this is part of the story. Everything is part of the story.
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah. So this acceptance that you mentioned, are you putting effort into accepting things?
Effort. It's I wouldn't say effort. It's like a reminder somehow, maybe to remind myself. I have to remind myself when I'm really exhausted and when I'm really deep in these problems, these fears, this existential crisis, and then sometimes it works really fast, and sometimes I stick more deeply in this mud. But it's nothing compared how it was 1 year before, when I was really, there was this identification with all these things, and the blame and the shame and the hate, self-hate spread, and this somehow it's not there anymore, or maybe for split seconds.
Yep.
But it can come back. So it's a bit of a flip-flopping, and I think maybe life is all about this, that it's everything. Cancer is also life, or losing a limb is also life, and there is nobody who has control over this. So it's like 2 months ago, my mother had a tumor on her liver, and we had to wait 1 month to know for sure if it's cancer or not. And I was watching myself, watching emotions go by, and I was totally calm. I could really let the control go. If it's cancer, it's cancer. So I really can't do anything with that. So I will handle it when we are there, and I will cross the bridge when the bridge is there. But
yep.
And I'm sure I would have reacted in a totally different way before this thing. But still, yeah, it's not easy. It's different, but it's still not easy.
Sure. Yeah. Wow.
But it needs a bit of tenderness towards yourself, and forgiveness and understanding, and
but it appears you do have that.
I know where it comes from. I mean, the anxiety, and I think I know. I went to a lot of family constellation and had a lot of very intense times where I was sitting with these things. And I wouldn't say I know everything about my past or my parents and childhood traumas, but somehow there is acceptance with it. So it's totally normal how I grew up. I have doubts, or I have more doubt than maybe others who were raised in more loving or calmer circumstances that I was raised. So this is also, it's about forgiving yourself for, maybe it's not the best word, but for being weak sometimes, or for
I get that.
feeling pain sometimes. it's part of your story. It's about who you are or who you were. And
So do you feel like that something there needs to be got rid of? Some shadow stuff that comes from your past? Do you feel like that's the reason why, and that needs to be fixed?
I don't know if it needs to be fixed. I think it's completely human to have doubt that to falling out from this of this state where you have no doubt at all and you are one with everything, and you feel this loving kindness all the time. So it's okay. It's a hard period now in this story, in my story, and if it's hard, it's hard. So it's understandable. So there is no blame. There is suffering and there is a lot of things, and yeah,
So-
I mean, it's surprising and amusing in the same time that this can come back anytime. Also, after all this honeymoon
Yep.
phase or nice periods in life, that you can be still feel yourself like a piece of shit, and you can
Yep.
be really exhausted and really questioning everything. And in the same time, there is this other guy who is watching this, and he's laughing about this all the time. And yeah, it's a bit like a split in the identity, or I don't know how to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
A bit schizo
Yeah.
state.
Yeah. Sure. Well, so one thing I've come to realize is that we as humans, we can carry quite opposite things at the same time. You know, we can love and hate at the same time. Yeah, we are so complex that we can do that quite easily. Yeah, and we can be multiple things as well. Yeah. You know everything. There's nothing I can tell you. Yeah, what is this mystery that brings about this suffering? Yeah. Wow. When you talk about self-love, this is a big thing, you know, the self-love. This is acceptance. Now forgiveness. Have you thought of forgiving yourself? We always
Yeah,
seem to.
it's a hard one.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. It's kind of easy to forgive others, to forgive situations, but to forgive ourselves, it's a bit of a trick.
For me, this is, I can relate to Dennis when he said that this is a step-by-step slow process, and I have the same. So all this, it's also rational procedure. But I am a more intellectual guy, so for me the first step was always understanding, and then from understanding, from the cognitive part of my body or myself, it flows somehow.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
The heart to the heart part where it gets immanent, or when it gets like when I also feel it and not just understand it. And for me, it was always like this, that I had to read the books. I have to, and some sentences got stuck in my brain, and I was really like on fire for half a year, and I couldn't do anything else, just just think about this, just meditate on this, just read about this. I think this is important, maybe, that you have to burn in this, or at least in my story, I had to burn up on a really high temperature.
Yeah. Me too. I was obsessive. Yeah, burned.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that helps in a big way. Yeah, it certainly does. But you're
Because
burning now, but differently. Yeah, not quite, not quite in the same way. Dennis burns. His desire, his seeking is burning. Yeah, but it's a bit different for you. Yeah, well, I think no. I think you sound like you burn. Yeah, but yeah. So it's not that you need to know something new. It's just that you need to something is the image I get is that something is being encapsulated. Something is not getting through to you because you've got it contained somehow. That's just an image I have. I don't know how true it is, but yeah. Wow.
Yeah, what is difficult to accept that after all you went through, it still can be, it's still there. You can fall back, but not to the same place you were before. It's never the same place.
Yeah.
You fall back, but you can fall from a really high tower, and where you think that I can see all the panorama, I can see through everything, and
Yeah.
1 week after you are at the bottom again. And to accept this, this is also normal. This is also life. I mean, it's a bit disappointing, I must say. Sometimes it's that it can be so hard, and I can feel so much doubt about everything. And 2 weeks before, I was in this flow, and I was just really deeply believing in everything, that what I do has a reason, and this is the thing I have to do. And then something happens, or not, or even without happening, maybe nothing happens, but something's changed in you. I don't know. It's maybe a biochemical thing. I don't know. Maybe it's a biochemical procedure also. I don't know, because of not sleeping enough. I don't know.
They're all tied up together, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. So what occurs to me then is grief. Have you grieved the loss of this? This is an interesting one. You know, there is sadness and there is grief. Now, sadness is, in my mind, a pretty pure bodily reaction, but grief is like sadness with a lot of stories hanging off it, how it shouldn't be the case. So maybe you need to work through a grieving process of this thing that you lost. That well, it's not completely lost, but things that's not there all the time now. Maybe that's an issue.
one more thing maybe about there's also a paradox in listening to guys like, I don't know, Jim Newman or some gurus, and watching them builds up somehow frustration that on one hand it's good that they are talking about this. It's one hand it's very good to hear those guys, but to see that this is possible, this full acceptance of everything. But on the other hand, when you are realizing that you can fall out of this kind of really fully accept everything that is going around in your life, and you can really being frustrated and then somehow there is this question that are there really levels in this in this experience, or how, I don't know if experience is the good word, but that I would really talk about hard times with those guys, that when everything is cool, everything is fine financially, and you are healthy and all those things, then it's not so hard to say all the time that this is it, and and there is nobody there, and this flow all the time and this peace all the time. But maybe I'm misunderstanding what they are saying, and I mean this full acceptance that if there is grief, if there is shame, it's just flowing by, it passes, it comes from nowhere and goes to nowhere, and to not getting stuck in this mud that much. But maybe this is life, that this experience gets deeper and deeper through the years, and I mean, for me, this is a very fresh way of living.
Yeah.
And I never had this immediate kind of enlightenment like a lot of people are telling you on YouTube or writing books about it, how they, I don't know, hit their leg on a bus and suddenly they understood everything and the self disappeared and all these stories. Of course, when I was seeking, I wanted that very much.
Yeah, of course,
So that's the way to that's enlightenment. But what I'm going through, it's just a rational, I know, mind game, and I understand now that this is not true, that there are really different ways of experiencing this, and my slow progress, or my on my slow path, it's the same like their path, but it leads to the same sea, or the ways or the roads leads.
I get that. Yeah, I have to tell you, I see a lot of people who have had that Jim Newman type shift, you know, whichever one of those, the non-duality things. I've seen a lot of people crash after that because there's no foundation there. They immediately jump to it with a belief change, and life always comes back with a bit of a bang, and when it happens like that. So yeah, of course, these people talk about their awakening experience, and that's what you see, all of their awakening experience. So that honeymoon period that you experience, they talk about that like it's perpetual. It's not. It definitely is not. Never happens that it's perpetual. They might want you to think it is, but you know, that's because what they're selling, I think. But anyway, but there's a reality, and that reality is that we've got to shit and eat and do everything else that people do. You know, we've got to be human. That's the nature of it. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's a much more human process.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
what,
Yeah.
but I really like in Ilona how she's talking about this, how she writes about this, the whole AU thing. It's, for me, it's much more human somehow.
Yep, yep. And it's building a good foundation. That's what's missing with a lot of the non-dual stuff. That foundation is we work through things, you know, we don't suddenly get there and then find that we can't sustain it. Yeah. And there will
There is
always be
also,
that fluctuation of life, up and down, up and down. That's being human. Yeah.
and there's also the danger of this spiritual bypassing or this identification with the new self of you,
Yep,
who is
yep,
of
yeah.
course not you anymore, but this guru kind of
Yeah.
person.
Well, that's what the non-dual thing is. A lot of bypassing happens there. Yeah. Yeah. And bypassing only works in the short term. It doesn't. So it doesn't keep up. Yeah. My heart goes out to you, man. I do. Yeah.
It's really important to allow yourself that everything can come in, and this, I think, this is the hardest part, to accept everything.
Yeah. And when you accept it, it's different. You know, it's not the way when you're resisting it, when you're pushing it away, there's a certain response to it. And when you accept it, there's a different response. So it's the same stuff, just a different attitude towards it. Yeah.
And there is a huge difference, but because when you don't accept it, you are nourishing it somehow.
Absolutely. Yeah. Make it stronger. Yeah.
You make it stronger. You give energy to it with this illusion of control, with this wanting.
Yep.
With this contraction, and if you somehow give space to it, it doesn't. It is not vanishing, of course, from one moment to the other, but it's much
Yeah.
easier to.
There's a different response to it. That's right. Yeah.
And this is really connected to self-love, to say that you can come in, sit down, I will focus on you, I will give you the space, be it shame, be it grief, be it I don't know, feeling weak, or not the man you want to be, or not the woman you want to be, and or not the parent you want to be, and forgive yourself and love these parts and give space to them. And I mean, is there anything else we can do? I don't know.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that when we accept that we're innocent, then it's a lot easier to love us. We can love ourselves when we recognize that we're really innocent babes, really, no matter how old we are. Underneath everything, there is innocence. And innocence has to be loved. It can't, how can you not love it?
And it's also important to rationalize these things, to read about, for example, I'm reading and listening to Dr. Sapolsky, a lot of things about how he's approaching this topic about free will, that there is no free will, and he's approaching it from a totally different scientific background than the non-dualist guys are doing it. And this also helped me a lot to understand of somehow this innocence that it couldn't be different. So how it is now that I'm somehow feeling anxiety or sorrow or something, this comes from something. So this is completely okay. And there is a lot of forgiveness in this.
Yep.
Also, if you go to family constellations and you see all these transgenerational traumas, which was caused from way back, maybe from your grandparents, maybe from the Second World War.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Epigenetic stuff. Yeah.
And it's not a failure. You are not a failure. It's not a mistake. You are feeling these things, or you are making things happening what you don't want. This comes from all your story, your background. So yeah, it's like,
yes.
really, I'm not dreaming this, that I am a dream, or I am the one little part of this big dream.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
dream by
You're
life.
both the dreamer and the dream. Yeah.
Those are the paradox. It looks like that, though.
An interesting one that is fairly recent for me is that we suffer, say, childhood trauma. Of, be loose with the words, and yet here we are, all these years later, still suffering the same stuff. And it's like we imagine that it's there from before, but in fact, it's there now. Yeah, it's current. So we've got, with this collapse of time, there is no time difference between before and now, because here we are now, and that's the only thing there is now, what this is. And yet we have this conceptual overlay that it's from before, and that we've got to get it out and get rid of it in order to be free, when in fact we can allow it to be there, because it's not always active. It gets activated by circumstances, but it's not always active. A lot of the time it's just not there. It's only there when we think about it, or it's only there when something triggers it. And when that gets triggered, of course, then we experience the results of it, the consequences, the response to it. Heavy feelings, whatever they are. So we don't need, it can work, it can be helpful to shine a torch on it and find out what it is, but we don't need to. If we accept that it is there now and it is from before, that's almost enough in itself to unhook it from any reactions we have to it.
But this is also a paradox because every moment is new. Every moment is not connected to the moment before. So in every second, you have the chance to just observe the thoughts, to just let go. But on the other hand, everything is connected with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even the emotions, the experiences of your grandparents can reappear in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And somehow everything is a paradox in this topic. There are always two sides of the coin. So I understand somehow when they say that nothing happened, nothing ever happened. It's just really just this, because every moment is fresh, and I experienced this. It's really like a childlike being, like full of joy, full of discovery. When I've done this Apple exercise during the AU guide sessions, that went really deep for me. When you take down the layers of the apple, what is an apple? And then I think I arrived at the bottom of it. It was really mesmerizing to look around and to see the walls and to see the lamp on my roof, or I was dishwashing and I fall in love with the beer glass.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
It's not like falling in love. It's not the best word I can't
I get it
describe it.
though.
Yeah. It was like the beer glass. It's me and I am the beer glass, and there is no difference between us. And it was a bit like really this teenager kind of falling in love.
Yeah.
With objects around you and animals and everything. So I can relate to that very much. It was sometimes it can come back.
Yeah.
But
I get it. I know it. Yeah. Everything is enveloped in magic and wonder and excitement. Yeah.
And then 1 second later, you are, I don't know, screaming at somebody's face because he was, I don't know, crossing you on the street or doing something what you label as wrong. And this kind of ambivalent side of human life, this is really mesmerizing.
And that's magic too, isn't it? How can you go from one extreme to the other almost? Like, if that's not the right way to put it, but you know what I mean? Yeah, we can be in wonderland in one moment and in hell the next moment, and then back again. Yeah, not so easy to get back, but yeah, that's pretty magical stuff. Yeah, and very human. Yeah.
Not always connected to the circumstances, because even in very, very hard times, you can somehow slip into this oneness or this mood or experience or way of life, and somehow in the really good times you can feel yourself lonely or anything like this.
Yeah.
So I don't understand anything. What the experience is here, that how times go by, I experience that I know less and less and less. I understand less and less and less about all this thing called life.
Yep.
I really don't know anything, I would say.
Well, that's Feta 10 stuff, when you get to appreciate that you can't know anything, that there is no, it's not that there's nothing to know, but there is no knower to know anything either, or both. Yeah, that's pretty brilliant stuff. That's when there can only be acceptance. It's like the final divorce between thoughts and what is that not knowing, that ignorance. Yeah.
Somehow also the memory is fading a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't have this very sharp pictures anymore, or these trigger hooks anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I forget that I had an alcoholic father or something like this, and we are talking about something like this in a session, like psychodrama or any other circumstance, and they are asking me how can you relate to this topic, and I need even some minutes sometimes to remember about these things, that, oh, really, I can relate to this.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Somehow you forgot about all this, and you are just watching the carpet, how beautiful the color is. So it's really really strange, like getting dumber and dumber.
Yeah, my past life is like a black and white comic book. You know, it's just a few frames and that's all. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that there is also fear about this, that the ego says immediately that that this is no good, this is this is dangerous, you are losing control, you are losing your memory, you are losing this and you are losing that, and what is it, what is remaining after all this? And yeah.
Ooh. Well, that's another paradox, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, my thoughts were nothing remains, but that nothing is everything. Maybe that's what being awake is. Maybe it's not caring, recognizing that it doesn't mean anything.
Or just having no doubt about it, that this is fine how it is. This can't be in a different way than it is right now. This acceptance of this, because I think doubt is behind seeking many times, because seeking is the illusion of control. It's the illusion of rationally understanding everything and being in control in everything, and knowing who you are, knowing the past, knowing the future, that you are on a good path, that you don't make any mistakes, and this is somehow a little bit blasphemy.
Yeah.
This kind of always doubting, always living in fear, what comes next, thinking that you must be in control of everything, and it must be the way that you are visualizing your life. You have to have 3 kids and 2 dogs and this amount of money on your bank account, and if it's not like that, then it comes again. Then something has to be different than it is, and then suffering is knocking on your door immediately.
Yeah. Well, that's the big one. Something has to be different. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. There's an interesting one there. Biochemically, if we get a surge of any hormone, adrenaline, for example, you know, it usually fades within about a minute and a half. It's gone. But in order to keep it, we have to retell the stories and keep ourselves in a state of excitement, whether or whatever it is, whatever emotion that we feel, we have to we maintain it by repeating stories again and again and again and again. And this is what a lot of people do. They tell themselves stories and they just repeat those stories. I did see a thing on the internet about having what, 70,000, I think 70,000 thoughts a day, but something like 82% of those are repeats of thoughts we had yesterday. They just go around and around and around. Yeah. So it's and so that kind of, for me, kind of says, yeah, these are the stories that we tell ourselves, about the world, about everything, and we just have to keep repeating them in order to keep it alive. And I see how we actually create our world with our thoughts. We create not just our reality, it's not just our perception, but we actually create everything that we interact with our thoughts, with those stories. And that's a pretty big one.
It's also entertainment somehow.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because if there are no thoughts, then there is this fear of what remains. Everything is just so boring, and then there is enjoyment in this reoccurring thoughts again and again, and this movie in your head. So it's enjoyable and it's entertaining yourself, but yeah. Even though it reoccurs again and again, even then when you experience the beauty of thoughtlessness, it's also just comes and goes. So this kind of samadhi state, what they call it, it's really wonderful and weightless and beautiful, but one moment after or on the second day, here it comes again, here it goes again. It reactivates itself in the morning when you wake up, and yeah, I mean, it doesn't have a sense for me to live in a monastery and to work on this, keeping this samadhi all the time, because I think I'm not here for that. That was my problem with the way of life of a Zen practitioner, to strive always for this emptiness, for this thoughtlessness. But then I realized that there are no problem with these thoughts. It's the identification what is the problem with it.
Absolutely, yeah.
The only problem. If you can make that step back, one step back, then there is absolutely no problem with those thoughts. I mean, it's normal to have thoughts. It's
sure.
Somehow that's the abnormal, to work on it or to strive for it or to fight for it, to be in those very nice states. I must admit that there are very nice states, but I think human life, it's not about that you have to stay in somehow a permanent states.
Yeah.
Everything is impermanent, so
yeah. The word balance comes to mind. You're muted, Scott.
I'm talking to my girlfriend. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. I'm just seeing your mouth move. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm going to pull the plug in a few minutes. So if anybody's got anything else they want to talk about, let's do it now. Yeah. Mm.
I just want to say thank you to everybody who's here. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, bloody Dennis took up all that time today, so we didn't get around to everybody.
You wouldn't leave me alone, Vince. That was the problem.
Yeah, that's right. We couldn't do that. Yeah. Yeah. But we'll
I just wanted to say something. Listening to Sebastian talk, it felt very raw, heartfelt, real, and I'd rather listen to that for 5 hours than some dry, non-dual one-liner repeated constantly. He reminded me of what Adyashanti used to say. There's the up and out. You could call that your honeymoon period. But then you always have to come back down and in. And it feels like Sebastian's very much in the middle of coming down and in to meet everything.
yeah.
People
It
try to
sounded a bit like
transcend.
a crash landing, eh?
Yeah. And you kept mentioning fire, but like it really felt like, yeah, Sebastian's right in the middle of a fire right now, and he's describing the flames from where I'm sitting. But I suppose that fire hopefully won't be there forever.
Mm. Mm.
I just wanted to express my gratitude as well, and just to acknowledge the contribution of Sebastian's sharing, and just the beauty of that expression. So thank you so very much, and thank you, Vince, so much for always for holding the space.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, Irene, for being here and being so open-hearted as well, even though you didn't speak much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All of you, yeah. Now, this makes me feel like I want to cry. I love you guys. I just really do feel that. Beautiful. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go back to the real world now and or the unreal world and make breakfast. Okay.
Thank you.
Joy.
Yeah.